pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Item number one.
Next morning.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 10th.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, to approve item 1, to approve the minutes of the April 10th meeting. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 2.
Make a motion to approve item number 2 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, to approve item 2 on the agenda, to the cash disbursements, electronic payments. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 3.
Make a motion to approve item number 3 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, to approve item 3 on the agenda, to ratify or approve the following seminar requests or payments as stated. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to approve item number 4 on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Arnold, second by Commissioner Warren, to approve item 4 on the agenda, to acknowledge the hiring of Michael T. Susquehanna of Jim Thorpe, PA, to the open non-union part-time position of County Detective Substitute School Resource Officer. Questions or comments?
Can you explain more what his position will be, since
Well,
it's
that's
involving the schools?
Yeah, we have SROs at all the schools. They help to ensure the safety of the students.
So there's actually an officer at every school?
It's a security resource officer, yes. I think except for Montrose, they're the only ones that don't have it.
Montrose High School doesn't?
None of the Montrose schools do.
And why is that?
And you have to ask Montrose School Board.
Oh, it's decided by the board.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Item number 5.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 5 with amending it to approve, to get rid of ratify
Take out the ratify. I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, approve item 5, approve the transfer of Brittany Darrow from the position of head real estate tax clerk to the open non-union position of assistant director with Susquehanna, $35,000 per year. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Item number 6.
Make a motion to approve item number 6 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, to approve item 6, approve the hiring of Glenn Evans, a hot bottom, to the open union eligible position of assistant processing manager at the recycling facility. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 7.
Make a motion to approve item number 7 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, to approve item 7 on the agenda, to enter an agreement with Pennsylvania District Attorney's Institute for the purpose of defining a framework of cooperation to implement and maintain statewide automated victim information and notification systems referred to as SAVIN. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8.
Make a motion to approve item number 8 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, approve item 8 on the agenda to enter a purchase of service agreement with DARS Incorporated, Nano's House and Supervised Independent Living Program, Columbia, PA, for child welfare services. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 9.
Make a motion to approve item number 9 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold, to approve item 9 on the agenda to approve proclamation 2019-08 Lyme Disease Coalition Incorporated recognition. Questions or comments?
Any news online that we can get? I mean, how bad is it right now? And are the cases as many as last year? Or are they less, more? Do we keep a record of that, or who keeps a record?
It's bad. Coleen's with the Lyme Coalition. She's right next to you. Why don't you tell her?
We do. CDC actually keeps a record of the numbers of increased cases of Lyme disease. It is reported on their website. This year, we're up over 11,000 for the state of Pennsylvania.
What about our county, Susquehanna County?
Well, And if you look at CDCs, we're over 100, close to 200 in Susquehanna County. And if you go by CDC, which they think they're 10 times that number.
What about the people who don't test positive and aren't recognized by the CDC?
That's the multiplied by 10.
Yeah.
And when you multiply those numbers, we actually did a count just with 2 facilities in Susquehanna County in 2017. It wasn't even October yet, and they had actually reported to the CDC over 400. So we know that those numbers are probably pretty close to accurate with the 10 times, because they only reported 100 and I think it was 180 some, and our numbers were over 400 with just 2 facilities.
And when you say 2 facilities, 2 hospitals?
Yeah,
What's that?
You're talking about facilities means hospitals?
2 healthcare facilities.
Right.
Yeah.
So over 400 for the 1 year?
Yep.
Cases?
Yep.
And is that
And
more?
that was 2017. We're in 2019 now. Last year was worse than 2017. Each year we've been increasing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Item number 10.
Make a motion to approve item number 10 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Arnold to approve item 10 on the agenda to approve Proclamation 2019-09, May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Questions or comments?
Any improvements in the mental health facilities in our county that you can explain, or somebody else? What are we doing for all the mental health cases that we do
Maryann
have?
Colbert is here from Lackawanna, Susquehanna.
Thank you.
Behavioral Health.
Yes, good morning, good morning. Thank you for that question. So in response to that question, the Lackawanna Susquehanna Behavioral Health Intellectual Disabilities Early Intervention Program Office does have administrative oversight of the behavioral health services that are delivered in Susquehanna County. And we are supported by the Susquehanna County Board of Commissioners in our mission to provide quality behavioral health services to the residents. We do have a new mental health center that recently opened in Mayfield, PA, that does serve Susquehanna County. I know that that is not physically located in the county, but we have many services that are being delivered at physical locations in the county with staff that are headquartered in Mayfield. So they are traveling staff, traveling to school districts to provide community and school-based behavioral health, traveling to hospitals to provide case management services, traveling to outpatient clinics that are located in Susquehanna County, and working collaboratively with the agencies in Susquehanna County to deliver behavioral health care services. And hopefully in the near future, we will have a physical location in Susquehanna County. We are working toward that.
And how far is Mayfield from Susquehanna County?
That's a good question. Geographically, I don't know exactly how many miles that is. But again, the staff are itinerant and they are traveling here to physical locations here to
And what
deliver
county is
services.
Mayfield in?
That is in northern Lackawanna County.
And I was wondering from the commissioners if they would consider Act 13 money to provide a facility here in our county like they're doing in Mayfield, so we can have more help, and you can use Act 13 money to provide help for all our mentally challenged and emotionally challenged people.
Well, you know, it wouldn't be a commissioners meeting if somebody didn't poke me about the Act 13 money, Vera. So, you know, I
That's
look
why
forward
I'm
to it
here.
I know that's why you're here. I'm sure that's why you're here. So, you know, again, the Act 13 money is money that the county gets from the, because the gas money's here, and we're using it appropriately where we think it needs to go as commissioners. As far as this, we are in a coalition with Lackawanna County, and I can't remember, the last number was how much in millions of dollars worth of mental health?
We in fiscal year 17-18, we spent over $7 million in services to residents of Susquehanna County, services delivered in Susquehanna County, inpatient, outpatient mental health treatment,
Right.
school-based behavioral health is growing and providing
Right.
service to a large number of students in the districts in the county.
And
So
who's
it's not a
paying?
question of
who's
spending
paying
money.
for that?
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
It's not a question of spending more money, it's a question of getting enough people to take the services and use the services and get people to take it. So, you know, everybody's doing a great job at it. The group is doing fantastic work, and we've got more resources today than we've ever had.
So
Can I
when,
ask-
oh, go ahead, sorry.
Can you tell us, have the numbers decreased since, the area has brought in help for Susquehanna County residents?
Actually, the number of services being delivered in the county is increasing.
So we have more of a problem, do you think, or do you think it's more that people are finally being aware that the services are there to be used?
I think that awareness is certainly a key. But we are delivering greater and greater numbers of services, especially in schools.
I think what you're finding today is that because of their presence here today and the acceptance by people of having them being around and helping, that more people now that have always needed the services are starting to step up and ask for the services.
So now if somebody is like mentally, emotionally challenged, where do they go in Susquehanna County? Who do they call? Who can they call? What department? What number, if you can tell the people?
So there are many numbers that they can call, depending upon the need, and we are going to talk a little bit about suicide awareness.
Oh,
and
good.
so there is a number that they can call locally, a number for suicide awareness. There is also, they can also contact crisis. So there is a crisis service that is mobile and has 24-hour on-call staff. And then if they have non-crisis needs, that we are circulating the numbers for Friendship House, which is the new mental health center that is serving Upper Lackawanna and Susquehanna counties. And they also may be linked to case management or to outpatient services that are at physical locations in the county. So there are a variety of numbers that people can call.
And then where do they find these numbers? I mean, can we have it on the Susquehanna County website? I think this is a big need. Just have numbers that people can look for. Where do they get
We have
this?
resource guides that the information's out in. We've had resource days. We pass the information out at resource days. We put it out on the web. It's out there if you want to find it. And we have serviced in 2018-2019 fiscal year, there's over about 7,500 residents that have been serviced in this county, which, when you have 40,000 people in this county, that's like 16 to 17% of the residents are getting these services.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yes.
As far as a contact number, would that be, someone could easily dial 211?
Right, absolutely. That's what 211 is there for.
Exactly.
And
I think
that,
the
we
local,
started that many years ago with the United Way, the commissioners did, getting that program in place. So if somebody has a need and they don't know who to call, they can call 211 and they will get them to the right services.
Thank you.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 11.
I make a motion to approve item number 11 on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Arnold, second by Commissioner Warren to approve item 11, to approve the proclamation 2019-10 May as Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Different things for the
Now,
moment.
Public comment. We have somebody here from this one.
This is Alex Hazzouri from the Advocacy Alliance in Friendship House, and he's here to talk about the Advocacy Alliance and the Susquehanna County Suicide Awareness Initiative, along with the commissioners in behavioral health that is sponsoring the Ripple Effect with Kevin Ryan.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here in your, to me, brand new meeting room. I'd like to address one of your citizens' comments, provide a little more information. Friendship House has provided school-based mental health services in Susquehanna County for about 5 years. We started in Blue Ridge, and about 5 years ago, the then superintendent of Blue Ridge called us and said, I need some help. And we placed a licensed social worker in Blue Ridge. It was an innovative project at the time, and the individual provides mental health therapy to the students, as well as serves as a resource to all of the educators and administrators within the building. Friendship House now has community school-based teams in Blue Ridge, in Montrose, in Forest City, in in those schools, but we also have mental health professionals in Susquehanna community, as well as additional in Forest City, and continue to have professionals in Montrose. When you have mental health professionals in the schools, embedded within the workings of the schools, that's where you serve most of the children and adolescents in the community get their services through the schools. And they're far better served in the schools because then the professionals can work with the families and make it easier to get whatever mental health therapies are necessary, whether it's counseling, whether it's telepsychiatry, whether it's medication reviews, because it's so difficult for families, especially many of the families who use mental health services in the schools might be more of our poorer brethren, and difficult for them to make car visits somewhere. Everything is done in the school, and it makes it far easier. We are now working with the Federally Qualified Health Center, Mary Weatherall's group, and I'm forgetting the name.
NEPA Community Health.
NEPA Community Health, and they're providing mental health outpatient services to adults. And we are now, Friendship House, working with them, and hopefully that will happen soon, to place case managers right within those facilities. I believe Halstead, Susquehanna, and Montrose, I believe. And we will place case managers there, so that will be a more robust service for adults needing mental health therapies, because then they will also get the help they need to navigate through the mental health system or navigate through life, being a person suffering from whatever level of mental illness, whether it be episodical or whether it be a serious ongoing mental illness. So we're really excited about that. Advocacy Alliance, about 5 years ago, the tragedies that struck your county with a series of youth suicides was overwhelming to not only the folks here, but across northeastern Pennsylvania. We all felt it. And at the request of at the request and at the initiative of the Board of Commissioners at the time, I think it was 2015, there were a series of focus groups that were held across Susquehanna County. And from those focus groups, the Advocacy Alliance was able to glean what were some of the underlying problems, and what we might be able to do to work to embed ourselves within Susquehanna County to address some of those issues that resulted in this series of youth suicides. So after these focus groups, the Susquehanna County Board of Commissioners, as well as the Lackawanna Susquehanna County's Behavioral Health Program, founded, instituted, developed, and then we implemented the Susquehanna County Suicide Awareness Initiative. This initiative has been going on, I think, about 3 years now, and there's the presentations, working in the schools and the communities, and I just put together a list of some of the outreach activities that have occurred over the last 3 years, and I'm just going to read some of the organizations to which this initiative has reached out, and our lead is Diane Hawley Worth, who is a Susquehanna County, and she is leading this effort for us. But just some of the organizations, such as Bridgewater Baptist Church, First Presbyterian, Lyme Disease Coalition, the Susquehanna County Sheriff's Office, Montrose High School, Great Bend American Federation of Suicide Awareness, Barton Meyer Funeral Home, and the list goes on. There's about 35 organizations that we've reached out to, provided educational programs and information. The upcoming event is suicide, the ripple effect, and it's going to be at the Montrose Theater at 38 Public Avenue. And I just want to read a little bit about this fellow, Stephen Hines, about whom this movie has been made. The Ripple Effect is a feature-length documentary film and movement focusing on the devastating effects of suicide and the tremendous positive ripple effects of advocacy, inspiration, and hope that are helping millions of heal and stay alive. And a perfect example is Susquehanna County. I'm blessed in my work to work in 48 counties in Pennsylvania and 14 counties in New Jersey. The Advocacy Alliance is across all of those counties, and Friendship House is across 15 of those counties in eastern Pennsylvania. Well, we go as far west as Pottsville and as far south as Philadelphia. And I have never, the work, the citizen involvement and the outreach of our Board of Commissioners, hopefully I'm an adopted citizen of Susquehanna County, the outreach and the involvement and the advocacy on behalf of the citizenry is top tier. We're all across 48 counties out of, I think there's 67, and it's just so impressive to us at both the Advocacy Alliance and Friendship House. But the film highlights the journey of Kevin Hines, who at age 18 jumped off the San Francisco Bay Bridge in an attempted suicide, the Golden Gate Bridge, in an attempted suicide. He survived an unsuccessful suicide attempt, thank the Lord. Today, Kevin is a world-renowned mental health advocate, motivational speaker, and author who travels the globe, spreading his work of hope and recovery and wellness. And mental illness is something we recover from. We work it every day. Like those of us that perhaps are suffering from substance abuse, and we have to work that recovery every day. We have to work our mental illness every day and understand what it is that we need to do every day to make ourselves feel well or feel better than the day before. And the film highlights also stories of other individuals and families who are utilizing personal tragedy to bring hope and healing to others. That evening, which is again sponsored by our Board of Commissioners, as well as the Lackawanna Susquehanna County's Behavioral Health Program, is on May 7th at 6 p.m. at the Montrose Theater. It's open to the public. It is free of charge. There will be resources, all type of information in the lobby, and we think it's going to be an important event to continue to, as much as possible, squelch the tragedy of suicide, whether our youth or across the age span. Thank you.
I wanted to ask also, thank you for all the programs you're doing and all this concerted effort. I'm concerned about the jails, because what I've read is that many of the people that are in jail are suffering from mental illness, and that prompts their erratic and inappropriate behavior, and then they end up in jail. Are you doing anything in the jail system for these people? Any programs, any counseling?
Yes.
In our county in particular?
Yes. So I can share with you that the county program office is funding a mental health counselor who is 1 day a week, usually Fridays, at the Susquehanna County Correctional Facility. This is a staff member from the Scranton Counseling Center. They deliver forensic services to Susquehanna County, and that person is physically in the Susquehanna County Correctional Facility 1 day a week, seeing inmates, providing supportive counseling, works very closely with Warden Shelp, and so that is something that is occurring weekly. And then, of course, provides support to the warden and staff if they need support with accessing additional resources, and for re-entry, for individuals re-entering the community upon leaving the correctional facility. So that is every week.
And how long has that been going on?
Oh, that has been going on for more than a year, maybe almost 2.
Okay, so something kind of new, 1 or 2 years?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's good.
Well, it doesn't seem new to us, but yes, it is probably, in the scheme of things, just a couple of years.
Are they thinking of doing more than 1 day a week at this point? Is there a need for more than that?
I think that's a very good question, and I think that it would be based on need. So the warden and his staff, they determine what the need is and who is interested in, because of course it is voluntary. So individuals who are incarcerated don't have to have counseling, but if they are interested in counseling, it is offered to them. And some weeks it's 1 or 2 people, and other weeks it's 10 people, just depending upon who happens to be incarcerated at that point in time.
And are they guaranteed confidentiality in the jail, because the jails tend to oversee whatever conversations go on, or they may, you know, tape things? Can they really have confidential connections with
Yes.
a counselor?
Yes, there is a private meeting room in the Susquehanna County Correctional Facility that is used by both Trehab and by the counselor from the Scranton Counseling Center, and it is a private room, and yes, there is confidential sharing of information in that space.
In that space? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to thank both of you very much on behalf of the commissioners, both for being here today and sharing with us as to all the hard work that's going on and the improvements that we're making. I know Dr. Davis is here today. Dr. Davis, you'd like to share also with some of the great things going on at our Career and Technology Center.
Thank you. Thank the commissioners for inviting me to come in or whatever. And just on a quick note, my name is Alice Davis. I'm the executive director, but I'm also a counselor too. And I believe I'll always stay a counselor because you need to stay close to your students to find out what's important and what's not important. And just to mention the thing about mental health, I think the reason now we're more accepting of it, you know, society used to look at it as a bad thing. Nobody wanted to hire you. There were real issues with you. I think people are more accepting that it's like a disease and you just need help with it. So I think that has helped. I know when I do counseling at the school, parents and students are more willing to look at that. So that was just a sidebar with your conversation or whatever. But again, I'm here. I'd like to take 3 hours, but I know I don't have that time. So I'm just going to give you a snapshot of what we have, and then you'll be able to ask us any questions after. But we have 7 schools that come to the Susquehanna County Career and Technology Center. We have 5 in Wyoming, or Susquehanna County, Blue Ridge, Elk Lake, Montrose, Mountain View, and Susquehanna. We have 2 in Wyoming County, Tunkhannock and Lackawanna Trail. Plus, we have adults that can come into our program too, so it's open to anybody. And we do have financial aid. Just like if you're going to college, you can get Pell, FIA, a vet program through the Community Foundation. There's lots of money to be able to be used if you want to go back. In fact, there's a lot of money right now for apprenticeship programs because there's a need for individuals out there. So we work with that group there. We do have dual enrollment too, where you can get high school credits or college credits while you're in high school that's paid through part of our programs too. And some of the things that we have, I'm going to tell you the programs that we have, and every one of them are considered high priority and family or self-sustaining wage, which when I speaks to audiences, I'll say, which means your kids can live near you but not in your basement. So they can be around you and have a good lifestyle but not actually stay right there with you. So, you know, when I give speeches, and I'll say the Career Center may or may not be for everybody, but right now, students have a $1.3 trillion debt in jobs that aren't out there. And so we need to prepare them for future jobs. So I had a great opportunity to go to Washington to speak to legislators a couple years ago. And they said, Dr. Davis, what do you suggest? I said, this is what Dr. Davis thinks. I think we need to educate our students in the least amount of time, with the least amount of debt, so they can have a high priority job, making a family sustaining wage. Those are the things we need to do. I said we don't need to get them strapped down with a debt. And I'm counseling students right now that are 40 years old and still paying on their student loan, and they said probably for another 10 years before it's paid off. So we really need to think about that. So with our program, I'm going to tell you the programs that we have, and we go after every industry certification, because what we have is called an Occupational Advisory Committee. So when we order equipment or do our curriculum, twice a year they have to come in and say, you should add this, you should delete this, so that everything is staying current. So I'm going to go through the building. Building A, we have food management, production, and service, and that's open to the public. So you can come in and have food, and because we're a nonprofit, it's very reasonable, the price. Then we have cosmetology with microdermabrasion and glaucoma peel, which ties in the medical component. Again, that's open to the public. We have business and industry. We have massage therapy, we have electrical, plumbing, and heating, it's building maintenance, we have carpentry and cabinet making, and those 2 programs build houses. We're building our 5th house right now, and the students are getting the real life experience of finding out what it's like from, you know, doing a foundation to put it right in. And the nice thing for contractors, they like the fact that if it's snowing, we make them still go out, because in the real world, if it's snowing, you do have to go out. And then we have criminal justice. LPN program. It's called the PN program right now for adults. We have healthcare technology. We have welding. We have auto body. We have small engine. And we have auto technology. And again, when I give these speeches too, I'll tell people, I believe the Career Center has 4 audiences we really work with. High school students, adult learners, business and industry, and the community. Business and industry need skilled workers, and time is money for them. So one of the things they told me many years ago, they said, Dr. Davis, they're very good with the technical skills, but we need the academic skills. So we have coaches coming in working on literacy and numeracy. And I'm going to tell you a story, and I tell this to everybody I talk to. 5 years ago, I had a student who never gets excited about anything, said, Dr. Davis, I'm so excited about something. And I said, Johnny, what is it? He said, not only can I say the word Pythagorean theorem, I know what it means. I'm building steps out at the house, and it makes sense. He said, before, Dr. Davis, it was just numbers and letters on the wall, and I didn't know what it meant. And I believe in education that when knowledge goes in, if it doesn't have a hook to stay there, it's going to go right straight through because there's no reason to keep it there, you know. So looking at tying in the literacy and numeracy. And then we have exit interviews. We're testing right now. It's our NOCTI for the end of the year to see how well they do. So again, looking at business and industry, saying we need to give you skilled workers that have diversified skills, that can have entry level. And several of them say to me, Dr. Davis, I'll take them and then we can retrain them. And I tell students, if that happens, that can save you money. So it depends on, again, what you want to do and how you want to go. And then the community. Only 25% of your taxpayers actually have kids in school. The other 75 are either grown up or haven't come to school yet. So we get back to the community. So I often kid about this too. You can come to our school. You can go down to massage therapy because you've had a rough day, get a massage, and then you can go to cosmetology, get your hair done. Then you can come down and have some food at the restaurant. And then you can stop at the ATM to get some more money for that. Meanwhile, you could have dropped off your weed whacker, so we can do that, and dropped your car off and we'll rotate your tires. And then when you went to the ATM machine, you realized you didn't have as much money as you thought, so your blood pressure went up. So you had to go to healthcare to have your blood pressure checked to make sure you're still okay. So really, with that being said, we do get back to the community. And we're always listening to people's needs. In fact, right now, we're starting a CDL program. Industry driven, there's a definite need for that. We're doing phlebotomy too. We're tying that in with a college. So we have CNA, LPN, medical technician, healthcare technology. People are living longer. So I said, you know, we know that that's job security out there. So with our programs, we look at that. We have what we call an open door policy. Anybody can come to the Career Center if you have the ability to benefit and it's your career objective. But with that being said, we have adults that are coming in, are 40 or 50, and they said, Dr. Davis, I haven't taken a test in 30 years. That's okay. We have peer educators that work with you. We'll only teach you what you need to know, and we understand that. We actually have someone from Bradford County in our office to help them with maybe just reading, maybe comprehension, you know. So we find out, we start with a baseline. What do you know? So that we can build it from there. And again, we have the open door policy, so we have peer educators there to work with you on an individual basis. If you need extended time, we have an IEP. We work with students with 504s. We'll work with anybody. So what we do is we have 3 teachers in cosmetology. We have 2 in welding. So we kind of really do make that open door policy. The other barrier we removed is that if like, let's say you're buying tools and they're $400, we get money now from the Community Foundation to pay for that. So there's no financial reason why you don't need to come to the Career Center. And again, we have a lot of employment opportunities for them in the summertime. We really work with them, making sure they get gainfully employed. In fact, I gave a speech the other day too, and it just came out on the radio. In 2035, if the rate we're going right now, we're only going to get 75% of our Social Security. So people sometimes say to me, Dr. Davis, I don't care. My kids are all grown up, and I don't care about the workforce. I said, do you guys want to collect Social Security? And they all raised their hand. And I said, if we're going to get Social Security, we need a strong workforce to be able to do that. And so when I tell people, when I talk to my seniors at exit interviews, I said 2 things I want you. Whatever you decide you want to do, make sure you know if the job's going to be out there. And if you go to college, find out not only the returning rate, but the placement rate. The last thing you need is a heavy debt to be able to, those are important things to ask. And I'll say, you can do whatever you want to do, but those are important things to ask for, because again, you don't want to have a job out there. Perfect example, I had a student say to me, Dr. Davis, I'm going to be a marine biologist and I'm living in Pennsylvania. That's awesome, but you don't have an ocean here, so we really need to think about that. So one of the things, the state has a K-12 guidance plan, which means we really need to work with the students on career exploration, career awareness, to really find out, in junior high is really where they need to really figure out what they want to do and have a career pathway to go with that. So we have it where students can come in, or adults can spend a day and just say, is this what I really want or not? If you look at, like in the automotive industry, 1 million jobs every year go unfilled because they just can't get the technicians. So again, you know, we have this at the Career Center. I've been here since it started, way back quite a while ago, and really enjoy it. I really do, and listening to industry needs. But you know what the nice thing, students come in and maybe they're not real book smart, but they are with their hands, but then the book smart kicks in because it makes sense for them. You know, they can tie it into that. So some will come in and when you see them go across the stage with their parents and I started saying, you know, for the first time they made the honor roll, it's because there's an interest and there's ability, and you have to have a maturity level to be there. So I want to tell you just a few things we do for the community too, because that's an important thing. We do the annual Pink Out for breast cancer. We did the annual Veterans Makeover and free lunches for veterans. We do an annual car show to help money for the wounded warriors. We have the big business incubator going on in our school right now to help small businesses. It's free right now because we got a USDA grant for this. So if you want to know the S corporation, C corporation, should I start a business? What's the startup on that? We do a back prep program because food insecurity, we know, is about 56% out there. Car donations, we get a car donated and we give it to a needy family every year. We're doing a Boy Scout dinner this Saturday to raise money for the Boy Scouts. We did benches for the Courthouse here. We do CareNet. We fed over 500 people for CareNet. Hospice of the Sacred Heart, we've made breads and things for them. Hunts for Healing, we made benches, and they come in and talk about what that means, you know. So not only do we make the benches, but they come in and say, these veterans that love to hunt and what it does for them. And that's an important thing too. So, you know, we do Claverack picnics, you know, to raise money to be able to give back. We do adopt Christmas families. First year, 15, 18, 20 families this year. And some of them, the stories that you get, and I share with the students. One family said we gave them food from Tree Avenue. For the first time, they were able to have what they call a real Christmas meal. They said, usually we have SpaghettiOs or something like that. And they said, we're invited to families, but they don't have any more than we have. For the first time, we had what we called a real Christmas. And everybody got together and they had the ham, the potatoes and stuff. Those are what's real, and that's what we need to instill in our youth, that those are important too. We need to get back to the community, and we need to help people, and then when we need the help, we're there, and then turn around and give it to other people. So let me see, I think I've addressed everything. Like I said, the debt service, 1.3 trillion. This is why I keep talking, you know, the debt for these students or whatever, it's phenomenal. So, and again, the jobs are out there, high priority. So again, if anybody has any additional questions, you can give us a call at the school. If you want to take a tour of the facility, you're welcome to do that. Come to our Occupation Advisory Committee. We have an open house coming up. Love what I do, so that's why I keep doing it. And it's really nice to see the students and the adults. The adults graduate, 65-year-old and LPN graduated. You know, you can do anything you want if you want to. And you know, sometimes they'll say, Dr. Davis, I don't know. I said, you don't know what you don't know, and if you've lost it for a while, you can gain it back, you know, and nobody will look down, and I have the best teachers in the world. And when I hire people, and people say to me, Dr. Davis, how do you hire teachers? This is the absolute order that I hire them. Number one and most important thing is your attitude. You have to have a good attitude. The attitude of the teacher determines the climate of the classroom. Number two, flexible. Number three, team player. Number four, believing you can educate all students, special ed, gifted, and everybody in between. And the last is your content area, because the first four I can't teach you. The last one you should know. So I know I could go on forever, but I think, does anybody, yes?
Dr. Davis, I'd like to ask, on another meeting, Commissioner Hall mentioned that there was about 200 jobs that are not filled in the gas industry. Can you explain why that is happening? They can't get the employees they want or need?
Well, part of it is the CDL. They need the CDL drivers. That's a big thing. Like, we've had a lot of companies call us, so that's a driven one. That's probably the number one there. I have another company coming. He met me 10 years ago when we started the roustabout. They're actually going to be putting lines across the top of the land for water and stuff like that. They just want to talk about job opportunities there. A lot of them, like engineers and stuff like that, the roustabouts or whatever. But the biggest thing in the gas industry we're hearing is the CDL programs.
And have you heard complaints from drivers at all, like I have, that the hours are too long, they're 12-hour days, 6 days a week? Is there anything that industry can do to make it more appealing?
Yeah, let me tell you what, because we met with several businesses because we were hoping to ask for some money. This is some of the things. We have a curriculum, it's 150-hour driving. One of the things we're going to take everyone one at a time, so they're not like one driving and three watching. That's a big thing. But hazmat is a big thing they're asking for. Electronic, keeping track of the books. The other big thing is being able to pass a drug test. Being able to do that. So you're not just passing it today, and we're saying to them, we're gonna randomly test you as you're going through the program, because I'm not gonna ask Treehouse money or Pell's money or the taxpayers' money if you're not going. And we're actually gonna put a social component in there about it used to be called the soft skills, the personal skills. Now they're called core skills. You have to be there on time. If you're supposed to be there at 8 and you're there at 5 you're late, Stay off your phone, some of the skills. So we've said to employers, you tell us what you want us to teach and we'll teach it. So when we get it closer to the CDL, we're hoping the end of August, 1st of September to start. We're gonna meet with all the business again and say, okay, you tell us now what you want, because we want to make sure that you have the needs for that too. And I think the more drivers we get, the more they're going to have an opportunity. Some don't want to drive over the road, some do, so just being able to do it. But we're listening to their needs of business and industry and telling us, you tell us what you want us to know. Hazmat was a big thing. Air brakes, knowing a little bit about air brakes was a big thing too, so.
Can you also consider the needs of the employees, the drivers, and the students that are becoming adults and going to drive? Can you consider their needs so they don't have to work over 60 hours a week, and then some of them do overnight shifts? Is there any way to consider the employees and their needs?
Yeah, what there would be is like a job fair, so that everybody would say what your job does. Like this one does one thing, this one does another, whatever. I think getting the message out, because the last thing you want is to have somebody not want to go over the road and go over the road. You paid the money to train them to go over the road, and then they lose them and have to go and retrain somebody else. So I think being very transparent, okay, what every company's looking for, like, do you require mandatory overtime? Do you require, like, over the road? Do you require weekends? I think employees need to put that down there so that everybody really knows what they're getting into. And I know that Wyoming County Chambers is having a job fair coming up, and I tell people, go there and find out exactly what the needs really are.
Thank you.
At our last meeting, a gentleman was here and brought up in the meeting that with the Career Technology Center, there was a lot of barriers and kids weren't being allowed to go. So, that was kind of in our last meeting, so I want to take an opportunity to share that with you so you can comment on that, because I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it is absolutely not true. We do have an open door policy. We really do. Now, your sending school districts may not let you come if you're missing like some of your academic subjects or whatever. What we do is we have an open door policy, and we will accept anybody from any school. And even if you have a 5th grade reading level or a 7th grade, because we find that once you find in something you like, we can bring that up there to be able to do that. So we have peers to work with them. We have never ever, and that's why we've always given everybody their first choice in the program too. So some might come in and say, can I spend one day in healthcare and maybe one day in the restaurant area? Finding out ahead of time what you want before you buy the tools and supplies. So we absolutely will accept anybody in the program and stuff like that. And we keep expanding, we keep adding. So we absolutely have the open door policy. Some school districts require your GPS to be a certain one, or your class rank to be a certain one. We absolutely do not. In fact, you start with a clean slate, and that's the counseling part of me. I said, I don't care what happened to your past. Your past is your past. You come here and you start from here, and we'll work with you. And I also tell them that everybody's made a mistake in their life. There's not one person out there that hasn't. What you do, you learn from that. First time it's a mistake. Second's a habit. People are less forgiving of a habit than a mistake. So, you come in and prove to us, And the other thing, it's real easy to get a bad reputation. It's real hard to keep a good one, So just some core skills to let them know that then. Yeah.
So basically what you're saying then is you have an open door policy, you'll take any student, but it may be the sending school that has certain requirements that won't allow the student to go.
Maybe they failed a math and they need to do a makeup math at the same time they come at the career center, Or some of them may say their attendance. because their attendance isn't good, they have to have their certain attendance a certain way. So we leave that up to the sending districts because we don't want to micromanage their decision. But when they come to us, we'll take anybody that they recommend. Yeah.
I was here when they made that comment. I believe what struck me funny was I thought the guy had said that they wouldn't take him because he was too smart.
No, oh, no. No, now let me tell you.
And that's why it caught my attention.
You know what though, sometimes, and this is sad, the sending districts will tell them, you don't want to go to the Career Center because you're too smart. And yet the reading level of an auto tech is 13, grade 13. So sometimes, and I think that's the mindset of people that, oh, that's still for those kids that just hammer and nails and that kind of thing. That has changed, absolutely. So sometimes we do hear the students will say, Dr. Davis, I was lucky to get here because my teacher told me I was too smart to come to the Career Center. I said, well, I'm glad you came. It's your career, your goal. And I said, you know, most of us are going to work 40 years in a job. Let's find something we like to do because we can all tell if somebody likes their job or they don't, you know. So I think that might be. So sometimes it is out there that you are too smart. And yet we have advanced placement. We have advanced placement for the military, we have colleges, you know, so, and the nice thing is we're what we call competency-based. There is a curriculum we have. So let's say you come in with prior knowledge with construction, so he could advance through some of the stuff quicker. So you don't have to wait for everybody to go to next chapter. There may be 270 competencies. Everybody gets a diploma when you're done, but one may master 150, another one may master 270. Those competencies are what employers and colleges and the military look at. So it depends on how self-motivated. So the more gifted and more talented they are, the faster they can move through those.
I know that from my previous experiences, your programs, some of them were designed to be 2-year programs, some 3-year programs. How's that all working for you right now?
The best thing is a 3-year program, especially like the house project, because you get to see the whole cycle of a house being built, the construction, you know, the wiring, the finished product or whatever. Because of travel, you know, Susquehanna Blue Ridge just comes, well, now Susquehanna does come 2 years now, but Blue Ridge comes 1 year. Like for an example, cosmetology, it's 1,250 hours to be a licensed cosmetologist. In 1 year, you can't get it, even if you stay clinicals, you know, nights. So you'd have to come back as an adult to get that. So the 3-year is the best because you can master more competencies to be able to do that. But again, let's say a student didn't want to come in 10th grade, they wanted to come in 11th. And they said they decided this is what they want to do. Absolutely, we will take them because it is competency based. So even if it's a senior and they said, you know what, they finally decided that they want to get in the healthcare field. Absolutely, you won't get as many competencies so you can come back as an adult or maybe get enough skills to go into work or someplace.
So basically, I mean, the opportunities for the students are there at your facility. It just, again, it goes back to the sending school, whether they're going to allow them to come more than 1 year or 2 years. And obviously for them, it's their cost of transportation or whatever their reasoning is as to why they're not letting them come for the 3-year program, right?
Exactly. So, like I said, we'll allow them to come in. We get the applications. We even have open houses in May where you can just come in and explore to see what it looks like, you know. But you can come over and just take a tour. We have families that, my school doesn't have, my children are in school today. We just had one, Blue Ridge was just off, and so they were able to come in. They came and spent 3 different shops. They just went and visited just to see. We have what we call an ambassador program too, where students are ambassadors so that they will take them around, because sometimes students listen to students better than adults sometimes. And so they'll say, like, this is a program I really like, or this is something there. And these are ambassadors. Again, back to the wellness. You're not an ambassador just at school. You're an ambassador on the school bus, at the grocery store, all over. So you're somebody that they can look at. And we have their picture on the wall so that they know that those are the ones that you can go to. Plus, you know, it's myself, the staff already knows that if someone comes in and says, you know, I need to see Dr. Davis, you know, I'm available. In fact, it happened maybe maybe three months ago. They said, Dr. Davis, there's a student out there who needs to meet with you. He came in, he sat down, and it's real quiet. We shut the door, and he goes, I don't know where to start. And of course, and I said, I'm a mandatory reporter. Anything you tell me, I need to report if it's any kind of abuse. Or he sat there and he goes, no, Dr. Davis, I'm hungry. He said, the last time I ate was yesterday at lunch here. He said, I'm hungry. And he said, I have a job, but it's not enough money. So what we did is we were able to get him free lunch, breakfast at our school, and a double lunch at noontime. And then what we did is we found what grocery store it goes to, and out of my Clav Rack picnic money we sent money to that grocery store to be able to do that. Because I really believe food insecurity is really real out there. In fact, I use this analogy. I was hungry once, but that's because I forgot that I had to fast, so I knew where I was getting my next meal from. Some of these other people don't. So a hungry student or something's going on, and one more lasting example, we have to look at everyone as an individual. This has been about 10 years ago. A teacher sent a student down to my office, and he was mad. And on my desk I have M&Ms and candy around. He sat down, a bigger guy, and he sat down, and his hands were folded, and he was mad. And I said, do you want to talk? And he goes, nope. So I didn't want to stare at him, so I was doing my paperwork there. About 2 minutes later, the floodgates opened. He just started crying. He just started sobbing. He goes, Dr. Davis, I don't want to be here. I said, why? And he goes, when I left this morning, my dad was beating up my mom and said she was going to be dead when I got home. He said, so I didn't know. So I tell my teachers that if you see something, say something, or something unusual, send it to us. Don't, because you never know what may go. Some are dying of cancer, some are losing their homes, all these. As counselors, you always need to tell people, and the same thing with ambassadors, don't think it's not a big deal because you're judging and you're determining whether that's real or not. Let somebody else be able to determine that. So I'm sorry, I could keep going on.
No.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I just read the other day where the national personal debt is over $4 trillion. It's amazing the number of people that have no idea, no concept how to manage money. Are you doing anything in that area?
We have financial literacy, and everybody needs to know about credit cards. You know, it's nice when your dog can get a credit card. You know that if it's, you know, so we talk about financial literacy, compound interest, you know, letting them know that. That's a real big thing. How to manage a checkbook. You know, so we really, those basic skills to be able to do that. So, you know, my bachelor's degree is in elementary education, and I said, as I look at the future, I would really love to speak Spanish at the elementary level, conversational Spanish, because I believe that's the trend that's coming to be able to do that. And I think everybody managing a checkbook by 7th, 8th grade, because by that time, you might get a babysitting money or somebody, put some aside a little bit here just to kind of learn how to do that.
I have a quick question. Are you gearing any of the kids towards like working for themselves, being self-employed? Because it always seems like you're pushing people to, you know, work for others. And
no, that's our incubation. We have actually 7 students. We had what we called in our welding, it was called the Shark Tank, and they designed something, and then they were talking. This business incubation, we have 6 students right now that are thinking of starting their own business. One was talking about this wonderful bench for someone in wheelchairs to be able to sit heavy duty, nice ones. So really, so it's open not only to adults but to students. Talk about S corporations, C corporations, you know, capital startup, all that. So we absolutely do.
It's so hard, you know, like I'm self-employed and I didn't have any training on how to, you know, pay employees
Exactly.
or anything like that, and you kind of have to learn on your own. So it would be nice if...
Yeah, we do have that. This our business incubation with this USDA grant. We have students going there now, and just to know how much you have to have for taxes and startup, you know, and how we help them write a business plan too, so they know they have to have a business plan for the bank. So. And this gentleman has his master's in accounting, really good. So, so if you know of anybody that is still good this year, we're hoping we're reaching 90 employers, and we're like to 58 right now that we've helped in students.
You mentioned hungry students. What is the poverty rate in Elk Lake School or the county? If anybody knows, what is our poverty rate for now Elk Lake Schools? Do you know that?
We have about 40% that are free reduced lunches.
40%. So that's been kind of steady, it seems, for years, hasn't it?
It has been steady, but I think, again, people are more willing to take it. That's how we do the backpack program. We give them the food at the weekend. If you're on free reduced lunches, you can get it, you know. Now the stereotype is not as bad, you know. It's like, we've had families call and say, Dr. Davis, it was wonderful because we had to pay our light bill this month and we didn't know we were going to get the extra. So to be able to do that. So again, even with the Christmas families and stuff like that. So that's still, but then also educating people where you can get food, like the food pantries, that, you know, the churches, you know, all over, letting them know that. So any families that come in and we talk to them, we always give them that information so they know that there's opportunity. And we just say to them, don't feel bad, because I say, Dr. Davis, I feel bad. I never thought this would happen to me. I said, in life things happen. We are up and down, up and down. Sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. When we're down, we're there to help you. When you're up, turn around and help the next person. So it's not a handout. I don't want it to be a way of life. It's just a stepping stone to get to where you really need to be.
Okay, Dr. Davis, I want to thank you very much.
You're so
Commissioner, I
welcome.
Thank you
I could go
for coming. Well, you know, it was great to have you here. Like I said, at the last meeting, people were making comments that, you know, that your school was not allowing students to come there, and we wanted to make sure that we got that cleared up, that you're doing all kinds of wonderful things there, additional programs, and doing a lot of great things for our community, and we appreciate that. Any other public comment?
Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to address some of the legislation that's on the table right now for Lyme disease, and it goes into other health issues as well. There's several on the table. Right now, we really need to be paying attention to two in particular, in my opinion. One is for patient care, and what that does, the one, it's House Bill 629. That one takes care of, it not only allows the patient to get diagnosed, which right now, because of the blood work, as she had mentioned earlier, being so faulty, we're looking at 50% if you multiply it by that 10%. We're looking at 4% of the patients are all that's being diagnosed properly. So that's all that's getting treated. And then it also covers long-term treatment for the ones that do get diagnosed. So this bill will actually allow a patient to get diagnosed, and that's how, you know, we've come across some comments with, well, cancer patients aren't getting care, and this one and that one. We're not looking for the payment. We're just looking for insurance to actually cover it, and in order to get insurance to cover it, we have to get a diagnosis. This bill is imperative for people to even be able to get care. I mean, right now, they can't even get it because they're not being diagnosed. I'm sorry, I didn't think that was going to get me.
Last year I had over $11,000 out of pocket expenses for medications and doctor visits for my Lyme.
And you know,
Most people
this
can't afford.
this bill isn't even going to touch that. Like I said, this is different. It goes deeper than like the cancer and kidney disease and things like that, in the fact that we can't get a diagnosis, a proper diagnosis. So if we allow this to go to a clinical diagnosis, which is what it should be, MS is clinical. There is no positive test for that. ALS is clinical. Parkinson's is clinical. We have had Lyme disease for I don't know how many centuries, and it's still not considered a clinical diagnosis, and it's just wrong, especially when almost 90% of those cases are found in Alzheimer's, MS, and Parkinson's, and all those others. These diseases are found in those, and there's no specific blood test for that. But we are finding what we can, and there's new blood tests coming out. There's new serological tests coming out. It's called a serial chip that goes even deeper, but it's so expensive. We need funding to go in those areas. This one bill alone, though, is going to allow that clinical diagnosis that we need. That one's number one important. The second one that's out there is for healthcare providers training. Right now, my last healthcare provider said, we don't know enough about this. And they wanted to send me 3 hours away to doctors. Those doctors, number one, aren't covered under insurance at all because they're out of network. The lower income people, even on Obama plan, do not get out of network coverage. So we can't go. We can't travel that far to start with because we have trouble sitting, pain, and many other things. So that's the second bill that's very important. There's also a resolution on the table to get the information into the schools, to have the teachers, the school nurses, when they find a tick, and how to proceed with that. Both the House and the Senate have bills on the table for all of these. The last two that I mentioned are very similar, and the one in the school is very, very good. And now that we have Pennsylvania offering free tick testing in the state, I'd like to see added to the one that's on the table, that when the nurse finds it, to go ahead and send it in herself, instead of saving it. The way it's written up in these bills, they have them saving it. I'd like to see those teachers or those nurses send those right in for testing. That way, when a parent says, we're not going to worry about it, which they have, that information comes back. If that tick tests positive, then the teachers in the schools are going to know what to watch for those children as well. Because we gave them, sheets on what to look for adolescents, the types of behaviors and stuff, so they'll know what to look for and they can push further to get these kids treated should they need it. So those are very important bills out there, and I wanted to make a real point on getting people attention. You can follow our webpage, you can follow our Facebook page is updated more often. Follow that, we'll keep you updated on it as soon as we find information. And we need you guys to help us write in to get these bills passed. And especially, even if, I know you guys don't have a say as far as that goes, but you can use your clout, you can use your influence to help us get these bills passed.
Well, what I'll tell you is that I have been in contact with Senator Baker and they are pushing them very hard to try and get those through the House and the Senate. And they are in full support of them. We've had the conversations with them. The most important thing you can do, again, these are state issues. The most important thing to do is tell the public to call their state representatives and their senators and talk to them. That's the most important thing you can do. Or to send them an email or send them a letter. When they get that information in Harrisburg, it helps them build a case on getting things done down there.
So we have like two bills. She mentioned HB House Bill 629. Is there any other numbers?
There's a Senate Bill 100.
Senate Bill 100. Anything?
Also Senate Bill 181.
Okay.
And I don't have the resolution numbers, but I can supply them if you.
And then your webpage is?
The webpage is LymeDiseaseCoalition.org.
LymeDiseaseCoalition.org. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
And like I said, Facebook is updated more often because
what's
we have
your
more
Facebook?
followers. And that's, again, LymeDiseaseCoalition.org.
Okay, great.
Anybody got anything else? Yes.
I'm concerned about not seeing any trucks from the NG Advantage, and I had spoken to you about it. Any news on why there's no trucks on the road? And when I went to the facility in Springville, I don't see any activity. And it's more than a month since their last accident. They had a rollover accident, I believe March 3rd in upstate New York. That's the 6th accident of rollovers between the two companies that we have, this compressed gas companies with the tractor trailers. Any information of why they're not running?
No information whatsoever.
And then I'm concerned about too is the water lines all connected in the park there where Diaz is and the industrial park in South Montrose? Is everything connected now? As far the water lines?
Yep, jail's on public water, they're no longer on a well.
And then several homes were connected also. How many homes were connected on those lines?
I couldn't tell you. You'd have to check with Pennsylvania American Water on that.
And then as far as the roads, they're in such deplorable condition, which you mentioned at the last meeting, the state roads, and you're still having that meeting May 3rd with Transportation Department Secretary? And what can we do? Can we have any kind of funds for people who have lost their tires, like myself also, on the potholes, axle damage, front end damage, on these roads where the potholes are so intense and they last for months, and then our cars are at risk, and then we have to fork over hundreds of dollars. If people can prove it and you call the police and the police come there and they make a report and say, yeah, there's the person, their axle, their front end or whatever, they just had damage. Can there be some kind of a fund for these people until we can be up to par on these roads? These roads are below par.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the roads, because the roads have gotten to a point with the commissioners that it consumes a lot of my time. And first of all, the roads are not a county commissioner's issue. The roads belong to the state. That's your state representatives, your state senators, your state House of Representatives, and those are the ones that are supposed to be handling it. Now, it was 6 years ago that the Susquehanna County Farm Bureau came to the commissioners and asked us for help if we could put some pressure on to get something done. And we embraced that, and we've been working on it, working with the Farm Bureau, and working to try and get the improvements made. And actually, I realize people think that, they're absolutely horrible and things aren't getting done, but from the flood last fall, over $10 million was put into the roads by the state in our area to get our roads back into some type of drivable condition. There's other counties in the state that their roads are still ripped up and never got repaired from the floods. So we are making progress. We are getting things done. There's a new map on the wall out in the lobby of this year's projects that they're doing at the state, map of the county and the road work that's getting done. Again, we are meeting on the 3rd with them. Again, I will tell you that I've had conversations with the state and Penndot where they've told me it's not a county commissioner issue, we're not talking to you. So, you know, again, it goes back to our state legislators and them having the authority in Harrisburg to hold them accountable. And people need to start calling them more instead of us, and hold the people that can do something accountable to try and get some things done. But that doesn't mean that we won't continue to push and fight. We will. We will have the transportation secretary here on the 3rd. She's going to take a 4-hour ride, look at the roads. PennDOT is well aware there's major problems. Right now in Susquehanna County, there's not enough money in the budget for PennDOT to bring the workers in for the summer until after the fiscal year ends and the new year starts. They know that there's a huge money issue in Harrisburg. We know that there's a big money issue going from Harrisburg. The money goes to Dunmore, and then try to get it out of Dunmore to get it to any other county up here. It seems like we're always fighting to get our fair amount of money into this county from Dunmore and from Harrisburg. So we're bringing light to all of that. We have engineers that, if we're not successful on May 3rd to get some type of plan from the transportation secretary, we have people that are ready to start writing requests and right-to-knows to Harrisburg to ask to show where every dollar was spent in this county and what standard it was supposed to be built to and what standard it was built to, so that we can try and hold them accountable that way. We do have the representatives on board. They have been putting a lot of pressure on in the appropriations hearings and budget hearings in regards to this. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. Again, there's just not enough money, especially with the money they spend in the lower part of the state versus what comes up here. Again, we have the highest gas tax. Our gas is the highest basically in the country. It has also created an additional problem because now people aren't buying gas in the state, they're going to another state, so now they're losing sales tax revenue on the gas, so that's having an effect on the budget also. But the bottom line is the operating budget in Susquehanna County for PennDOT has not changed since 2014. And the way they manage their budget is by attrition of manpower and not doing projects.
So that sounds pretty deplorable too.
It is.
It is, right? And then
But that's all, but again, that's all a state issue. When the state legislators and the governor's office and the transportation secretary can all get on the same page and say, we're gonna fix the problems of the roads in our county, in our state, that's when things will get resolved. Now, they've already realized that the pavement they're using, it's called super paved. It's not any good. It falls apart. 706 they did 2 years ago, and the day they were laying it down, it was breaking apart the day they laid it down. They've come up with a new material now. It's called SMA. Basically, it has larger aggregate in it and gets rid of all the small sand and the small aggregate. But it's very expensive. So they said they're going to try it on the interstates first and then go from there. But the cost is so high, they don't know how much they'll be able to do. So, yes.
What do you guys, maybe individually or combined, you've been in office for a while now, what do you think the county's actual worst problem that you're hearing from constituents about?
Well, there's a variety. I don't think you can just say one is worse than the others. I mean, we've done some surveys that we did, you know, and a lot of people, as Dr. Davis says, a lot of people don't know of some of the issues. Like we talk about hunger, we talk about food issues. Well, people that don't have a problem, they go to the refrigerator, it's full every day, they don't realize there's a problem. But I can attest the same as Dr. Davis did when I was on the school board. That was one of the biggest issues we had in the school was elementary kids coming to school hungry. And when you're that hungry, you don't learn. You're more worried about where you're going to eat, when you're going to get food.
Do you actually hear
as well as other schools have. You know, a lot of schools started breakfast programs, free free lunch programs, you know, summer programs to feed kids. So, you know, that's a big issue. You've got a big issue, of course, you know, with the roads. But again, that's a state issue. You've got issues of the Lyme disease that you talked about. You know, getting the recognition that needs to, so that people can get the treatments that they need, and it's covered by insurance. You know, and the list goes on there. Public safety. You know, one of the sleeping things that's hanging out there that nobody is paying attention to is our EMTs and our fire departments. You know, everybody's just so used to, hey, I pick up the phone, I dial 911. You know, somebody shows up in an ambulance. We're in a crisis mode right now with that. You know, and that's going to be an issue where we're either going to have volunteers in this county, or it's going to be a paid service. If it becomes a paid service, you're not going to get the service, and you're not going to be able to afford it. And that's a crisis that's out there right now that needs to be addressed. And one of the things that we are looking at and working on, you know, making sure that when you dial 911, somebody can answer the phone. You know, we have a public safety facility that we're working on trying to get built. If we don't get that built, we stay in the basement, we don't upgrade the technology, you know, we can't handle the calls. You know, we're supposed to be able to receive text and videos, and, you know, we can't do that. We need to upgrade the systems. And it's like anything else, you know, you can either stay with the technology you had 20 years ago, or you can keep improving so you can provide the best services. So it's not just one thing anymore. You know, you can't say, well, what's the most important thing in the county that needs to be done? Listen, I would love to have just one thing that was important, but there's about 20 or 30 things that are on the list right now that are important. And it doesn't stop. You know, we talk about jobs, and Dr. Davis brought that up. You know, people are mad, well, my kids can't stay here. Well, yeah, but your son or child wanted to be a marine biologist, or they want to be a forensic accountant. Well, there's not a lot of need for that in this county, and you would need to have about 500,000 people in this county to have that kind of need. So when you select career paths that, you know, aren't in this area, don't be upset that you have to leave, because you will have to leave. I've got 4 children, and only one of them lives in this county right now. But because of their career paths and what they wanted to do, and here's the other thing. My daughter moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And the reason she moved, she said, I'm tired of getting up every day and the sky's gray and it's raining. So she sent me her thing yesterday. I said, yeah, it got a little warm today. It's 88 degrees and sunny down here. I said, well, I don't know when the last time we ever saw 88 degrees here. So, you know, people want different things now. And the younger kids want different things, you know, and as much as I know, and I'm a parent too, I'd love to have all my kids right around the corner. Of course, my kids don't want to be right around the corner from me, just like anybody else's kids. But, you know, kids today want to get out and do different things. They want to go places. They want to try different things. You know, our generation, the generation before us, you know, a person would get a job and work that same job for 30 years and retire. Kids today bounce. They'll do a job for 5 or 10 years and try a different career, and then try a different career, because they want to have the variety and try different things. So a lot of that changes. So like I said, you know, jobs, yeah, you know, but, you know, we also talk about our environment, protecting our land. You know, the last thing we need to do is bring some big corporate business in here that's producing some major thing that's gonna mess up the environment. And we can't supply the people to do it anyway. You know, we talk about, you know, one of the number 1 things in our comprehensive plan was, you know, we need jobs. Well, there's lots of jobs, but not the jobs that certain people want. Those you can't get here because they're not available here because we don't have a need for those jobs. But the jobs that are available, and I realize, you know, some people say, well, you know, I can't get a living wage being a dishwasher. I understand that. But it used to be the kids in high school were the dishwashers, and the people working part-time, you know, from college did the dishwashing. So, you know, it just depends on what you want to do. And anybody that says, listen, you know, there's no opportunity is a person that just doesn't want to try. You know, there's all kinds of people. You know, we're going to recognize a young man this weekend, Adam Diaz, at the Boy Scout thing, as Citizen of the Year. Here's a guy that started out with a pickup truck and had nothing. And look what he's grown to today. he's the perfect poster child of, if you got the drive and you got the ambition, you can accomplish anything you want. But you gotta have the drive to do it. And maybe our problem is we've got too many entitlement programs. You know, it's too easy for someone to say, listen, I don't wanna do anything, I'll just sit at home and draw a check. You know, and that's the problem. You know, I'd rather take a mom that has 2, 3 kids that's trying to do it herself, that's trying to make a living and making a little bit of money. I'd rather give the money to her to help her do better than give it to somebody that's not even trying. But that's my personal opinion. So, but as far as what's the number one priority, there is no number one priority.
Well, I guess
It's
more my
everything.
question was more, do you actually hear from people though? Because I'm finding that, you know, that is a big issue. We put all of these programs out there for people, and they still say there's no programs out there, but they don't go to them.
Well, I'll
You know,
give you, and you're absolutely right. Perfect example, Mountain View School a month ago, and I can't remember the date, one of the, you know, we're out every night. They had a school safety night at the school. They had, I think it was American Lung Association or Heart Association, American Lung Association. They were in there giving a whole program on vaping and what a big problem it is now in the schools, and, you know, the middle school kids, and now they're mixing their own stuff up, and they're putting fentanyl in it and all kinds of stuff and creating all kinds of problems, and, you know, it's a real issue with the schools now. And then we had, you know, they talked about the ALICE training, which is a training, you know, if there's an intruder in the school, what the kids are supposed to do, how they're, so there's this whole big program at the school. There's 5 parents there. So you're absolutely right. I mean, we can run all the programs, we can put all the information out there, but if people won't come and get the information, people don't want to be bothered, you know, there's not much we
Why
can
bother
do.
wasting our money?
Well, I don't think you can give up. I think the issue here is we have a responsibility to keep trying. And you know, the way I look at it is just like, you know, Dr. Davis looks at it, like suicide awareness looks at it. If we can change one life, we've done a good job.
You save one money.
You know, you save one, you change one, you make one successful, you've done a good job.
I live in Mountain View School District, and I wasn't aware of, you know, that kind of meeting, so maybe,
It was advertised and then went home with the kids.
well, I don't have kids in school, but I live in the school district.
Yeah, well, it was advertised. So,
Speaking of Mountain View, Saturday, we're having a big Lyme event there on Saturday from 10 to 12:30, and we hope we'll have we have one of the top doctors coming in to speak, and hopefully we'll have a turnout.
You have a lot of top doctors. The last I saw it was just Dr.
No, I
Cameron.
said we have a top doctor, Dr. Daniel
okay.
Cameron. No.
so back to, again, your comment, it's not one priority, and it's not 5 priorities. There's more priorities than you can put on a list of paper. And the priorities change every day, depending on what happens through the day. Sometimes it changes during the day. You know, something that wasn't a crisis in the morning becomes a crisis in the afternoon because something else happens. And it's about being flexible and being able to say, well, I'm not just working on one thing, I'm only working on this. It's about being able to say, okay, I've got to shift gears and work on this other stuff now because this is important too, and we've got to get this moving too. So, you know, again, I'd love to have only one issue, but we have more issues than we have paper. Yes.
Just as a comment on the EMS, I'm an EMT with Clifford. From yesterday to today, we've had 9 calls. We go on over 600 calls a year, EMS. That doesn't include fire. So when somebody says, as the commissioners can all attest to, I mean, it's just a huge issue, because when the whistle goes, people expect us to show up, and we show up with $1 million worth of equipment between our ambulance and our rescue, let alone we're all volunteers. We are the second busiest company in Susquehanna County, and it is a concern. Being a volunteer and a senior volunteer, breaks my heart to admit, and I know I don't look like a senior.
I think you're probably one of the youngest ones right now.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yes. So as an old senior, or as a young volunteer, whatever the case may be, I've been doing it for years. But it is a concern. So you take that times how many townships we have, or how many companies we have, and then you multiply it by all the other breadth and depth of issues that our team faces. It's really a concern. So it's hard to single one out. It's just hard to single one out.
And as Dr. Davis said, you know, she's got a lot going on with CNAs and LPNs and the other medical programs. You know, yeah, and Guthrie is not right in this county, but Guthrie has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of positions open right now they can't even fill. And, you know, and so, you know, there's all kinds of stuff out there available, and it's a matter of, you know, I can tell you back in the 90s and early 2000s, the whole push from Washington DC and Harrisburg was every kid has to go to college. And we all just shook our heads, and we were graded as a school district on how many kids out of the graduating class went on to a 2 or 4 year school, and got kind of beat up by them if we didn't get the numbers up there high enough. But what we've learned is all we did was create $1 trillion worth of debt that nobody's gonna be able to pay. That's our next mortgage crisis. You know, we went through the mortgage crisis, this is the next one, because these kids can't pay this debt back. I had a young girl when I was doing taxes 5 years ago, come and sat down. She had this degree, and I don't know what it was 2 miles long, and couldn't find a job in that field any place in the United States, and was working as a counselor for children and youth in Binghamton, and she had over $100,000 worth of debt from Mansfield, and her student loan was almost $700 a month. And she's barely making enough money to pay her student loan. She's living with mom, and she says, I don't know what to do. I said, well, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're not in a position where you can go buy a car. You can't buy a house. Yeah. And believe me, if I was the guy that was thinking about marrying you, I'd be running the other way too. You know, I mean, I mean, it's reality. I mean, you know, and that's a huge problem today. You take 2 kids that come out of college, both having $100,000 worth of debt, that can't get 6-digit figure incomes, you know, they're in big trouble. And this is a crisis that was created. So anyway, I'm glad we got the Career and Technology Center. I'm a firm believer not every kid has to go to college. You know, I've got one that didn't go that makes 6 digits, and I'm very pleased with her, and she does an excellent job. So, you know, it's not about just getting that piece of paper with that certificate. It's about having the will to drive and the ambition to want to do something.
Let me just make a comment. When I went to Washington too, they said, what can we do with this? And I said, this is one of the things we need to do. We need to increase the dignity of the type of the work we do at the Career Center. It can't be looked at as less than. In fact, it is harder to be an electrician than it is to a doctor right now. So when I went to Washington, all these people, and I said, that's the important thing. And they commented back and said, that is so true. We can't say, that's good for other people's kids, but not mine. And yet, when you're starting to see that they're staying home with you or they're living with you, and it used to be you could file bankruptcy to get rid of that debt. You can't anymore. So that debt is your debt. So as a counselor and stuff like that, I tell the students, you know, it's important. We just had at our school, it's called Counseling for Careers in Colleges. And really talking about where the jobs are at, what skills you need. All the jobs are work keys so that you know exactly what you need, what kind of academics you need or whatever. So I think that that's important, but I think we as a society have to think that that's a good thing. If you're a carpenter or a plumber, that's awesome. In fact, someone said, well, Dr. Davis, a doctor is life-threatening. I said, yeah, but let's say the doctor's getting ready to do surgery and there's no electricity. That's kind of life-threatening too. Or you put your foot on the brake and it doesn't work. That's kind of life-threatening too. So it just depends on where the jobs are at and where your interest lies. Do an aptitude test, do an interest inventory test, find out what you like to do.
And you're absolutely right. You know, the issue is people got to do what makes them happy too. You know, too many times. I mean, how many times do you hear parents or grandparents say, I worked this job, I hated this job for the last 20 years. You know, you got to do what makes you happy too, you know, and that's the thing. So I think we've dragged this one out long enough. So I think I made up for all the 6 minutes.
I want to comment. The Substance Abuse and Recovery Initiative will be holding a forum with WVIA, Battling Opioids. It'll be held on Tuesday, May 14th at the Mountain View Auditorium at 6 p.m. It's a free event, and it's sponsored by the Lackawanna, Susquehanna Drug and Alcohol and the Susquehanna County Commissioners, along with the Substance Abuse and Recovery Initiative.
Awesome.
And I think we have...
That's the 14th, and this one is when?
The 7th.
This is the 7th, that's the 14th. Thank you.
So I think after today's meeting, everybody can agree, should be able to agree that there's a lot of good things going on in this county.
Yes.
You know, yeah, there are problems, but there's a lot of good things, a lot of resources, people trying to do a lot of right things to make things happen for our community. And it's not one person making the difference, it's not one commissioner or three commissioners. It's everybody working together as a team that makes all this come together. It's working with the agencies, working with everybody to bring people to the table and try and bring out the best we can. So you know, I'm pretty proud of all the agencies and Career Technology Center for the fabulous job you guys do down there. And we do a lot of great things in this county as a group of people. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to close meeting. Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are closed.
10:24.
Take care, Wallace.
10:24.
Meeting day.
You know, I was wondering what I was going to do.
Is on the roads here, working on the roads, 29. We're finally getting some repairs of the intense, massive potholes. So we got Penndot out here. Thank goodness. Thank you, Penndot.